Hello guys, welcome back to another video. In this video, we are going to discuss 6 best checkmate traps where more than 85% of chess players loses. Here we look for the first best checkmate trap in the French defense where we are currently playing with black position and white begins with e4, then we play e6, also called the French defense. Now white decides to play d4. We decide to play d5, which is the normal variation. White develops the knight. Now we takes the pawn at center. Knight also takes the pawn. Then comes knight to d7. Now if you think that we must play knight to c6, then that can also be the option, but the reason for playing knight to d7 was that we can develop this knight, and if this knight takes our knight, then we can easily take that knight from this knight. Anyways, here comes knight to f3. Then we play knight g to f6 as we desired. Now we desired that knight would be taking it and we can recapture from our this knight. But white did something different, and that is knight f to g5. Now this is currently attacking this pawn and we don't care for it, and instead we play bishop to e7, but then white sacrifices the knight. Now this is attacking the rook as well as the queen, and the queen is completely trapped over here. So it is important for black to take that knight, and then knight comes to g5 giving a check. Then comes king to g8. Now knight can easily capture this pawn and knight does the same. Now it is attacking the queen. So queen goes to e8 as desired. Then comes knight cross c7 attacking the queen as well as the rook. Now if I tell you it is a big blunder. Now why it is a big blunder? Try to find it out yourself. So the correct option is playing bishop to b4 giving the mate, as it is a double check by the queen as well as the bishop, and hence you win the game. Here we look for the second best trap in the elegance defense where we are currently playing with white pieces and we play e4, then come knight to f6, which is the elegance defense. Now most of the players push the pawn attacking the knight, and that is only the best move. Here knight comes to d5, then comes knight to f3 developing the knight, d6 attacking the pawn at center. Now we develop the bishop by playing bishop to c4 and it is attacking the knight as well. Now knight goes to b6 attacking the bishop. So many of you would be saying to push the bishop back. That can also be the best move, but the brilliant move in this position is to sacrifice the bishop. If the king takes it, then comes knight to g5 giving the check. Black king goes to g8. Now we play queen to f3 which is threatening the mate in 1. So black protects it by playing queen to e8. Then comes e6, which we are using for blocking the way of bishop as well as we can make moves by attacking towards the king. Now, if you ask me the best move in this position for black, so for black the best move is to play g6, as you can easily develop the bishop. But in the game, black plays x6, which is attacking the knight, and now it is a mistake. Why it is a mistake? Because now we are going to play queen to f7, giving the check. Black is forced to take the queen, and here comes the mate in 1. Here we look for the third best checkmate trap, which begins with e4, e5, knight to f3, then comes knight to c6. Now here, except for developing our bishop or to play the royal opage opening, we simply play knight to c3, developing another knight. Then black plays g6 in order to play bishop to g7 and to develop another knight. Now in such frames, White decides to create the control over the center by playing d4 and then black accepts it. Now white should have taken from the knight, but white decides not to take it and instead white plays knight to d5. Now comes bishop to g7, which is currently protecting the pawn as well as developing the bishop. Here comes bishop to g5, and then black plays a horrible move, that is knight g to e7, which is a mistake. Instead of this move, black should have played this knight over here. But the mistake was that black placed knight g to e7. Now why this mistake? Here we are going to play brilliant knight sacrifice where black can easily take our knight. And now if black takes it from the bishop, then we are going to begin with brilliant queen sacrifice where knight takes it, and easily we can play knight to f6 giving a check, king comes to f8, and then comes the checkmate. Now what if it takes with the knight? So let us say if it takes with the knight, then easily we can attack the knight with our bishop, and now in the next move you can win your opponent's queen. Now we are looking for the fourth best checkmate trap in the Italian game, where we are playing with white pieces. We begin with e4, black replies e5, then comes knight to f3, knight to c6, and then we play bishop to c4, which is the Italian game. Now straight away we are making a safe position for us to castle, as well as we are grabbing the opportunity to create a control over the center. Black replies with knight to f6, then we begin with d4 attacking the center. Now black accepts the trade, but we are not going to take it, and instead we castle on the king side. Then comes x6, which is currently blocking the way of knight that we can use to attack the f7 pawn. Here comes knight to x4. Now the best way is that black's knight can easily grab off this pawn, and if rook to e1 comes, then queen can easily take that knight. So in order to grab the opportunity of opening the queen diagonal attacking the knight as well as to win the pawn, so black takes the pawn. Now it is a mistake. Why it is a mistake? Because we can easily play queen to x5, which is threatening a mate in 1. Now in order to protect this checkmate, actually in this position the best move could be to play queen over here. But here black plays g6. Now it is currently attacking the queen as well as it is blocking the way of checkmate. White plays brilliant bishop sacrifice giving the check where king takes the bishop, and now we begin with checkmate. Here we look for the fifth best checkmate trap in the Skillian defense where we are playing with white, where we play e4, then black plays c5, knight to f3, knight to c6, then we play d4 attacking the center. Black takes the pawn, then we also take the pawn. Knight to f6 developing the knight. We also develop the knight protecting the pawn. Then black plays d6 in order to develop the bishop. We play bishop to g5 attacking the knight. Black plays a6, queen to d2, and then black decides to play knight to d7. Why did black decides to play knight to d7? So the main idea is that if white captures it from the bishop, then black would be recapturing from either of these two highlighted pawns. So it would be creating a bad position for black. So black decides to play knight to d7. Then comes bishop to e2, g6, which is helpful for playing bishop to g7 to develop the another bishop and to attack over the long open diagonal. Then comes knight to d5. Now black decides to play f6. which is attacking the bishop. Currently, the best way could be to play x6, but black decides to play f6, which is a mistake. How? Here we begin with knight to e6. Now, the only best option for black's queen is to come to a5. Here comes knight d to c7, giving the check. Then comes king to f7. Now, you all would be thinking to win the rook. Yes, you can do it. But let's focus on checkmate. So here we are going to play knight to d8, giving the check. King goes to g7, knight to e8 check. Now the only safe square for black is to g8. Now play bishop to c4, giving the check. Then comes e6 and finally the checkmate. Here we are going to look for the last trap in the Pilato defense, where we are playing with black pieces and white replies with e4. We play e5, knight to f3, and then we play d6 in order to protect the pawn. This is the Pilato defense. Now white replies with d4, creating the control over the center. We played f5, which is also called the Pilato counter gambit. Here white decides to develop the bishop by playing bishop to c4. Now we decide to take the pawn at d4. So white decides to take the pawn at f5, and now we can see that this highlighted range is free. So we decided to create the control over this range by playing queen to e7, giving the check. Now the best option could be to play bishop back, but what white decided to play the king to d2 so that he could play rook to e1 and to pin the queen. Now you can easily see that this move is not very nice, but let's look for the planning of white. Here we allow white to pin our queen. How? We are going to play g6, for which we are opening our bishop, and here comes the rook to e1 as we expected. Now it is pinning the queen, yet bishop comes to x6, giving the check, where king has only one option to come d3. Here comes bishop cross f5, giving a check. Then white is forced to take the pawn at d4. Then comes bishop to g7, giving a check. Now king is forced to come to d5, and finally comes the mate, that is c6.